Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to our Advent interviews. In these videos, we are exploring different family traditions and encouraging people to try out something different for yourself or for your family that will point you to Jesus, give you opportunities to disciple your family and your children. Because really the holiday season is natural for all of us. It's woven into our calendars, into what we do. And so why not seize that opportunity and make something special about that and connect with Jesus and connect our families with Jesus. And so I'm with Bambi. Bambi, thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
And I know we've got some traditions that we're going to talk about that you're excited about. Before we do that, I want to talk about something that we chatted a little bit about earlier, because you grew up in an actual evangelical free church background, right?
Yes, I did. Actual evangelical
a real
free
one,
church.
not a fake one.
Yeah.
In case you don't know, Grace Life is a part of the EFCA. That's our association. And they tend to be, well, they're absolutely very autonomous. They make different decisions. So even though Grace Life does certain things with Advent, you could go to another EFCA and they might do nothing, right? Because it tends to be what we would call low church, meaning not big on traditions or liturgies. So what was Advent like growing up for you in that setting?
I didn't know what Advent was.
Just used to words Christmas
I don't
time.
think we ever talked about Advent. It wasn't, the low church setting is you take all that and you throw it out and you don't do it. You don't do liturgy, you don't do any of that. And so my Christmas was, we had Christmas programs. Christmas Eve was the youth program, and we did a musical, or we did this, and great anticipation. You still had that, excitement that the Christ is coming and everything, and you talked about it, but you certainly didn't reflect on it in the Advent season the way we're talking.
You didn't use that word.
No,
and
never.
you wouldn't have used necessarily the same theme, but I think the idea is still there. There's an excitement about Christmas, and that's
totally.
really what Advent
Yes.
is. And so I think for a lot of people, if you grow up in a low church setting or an on-church setting, I think some people will look at Advent and go, why would we do this? That seems very different.
Well, we don't like being told what to do or to follow certain rules, or this is what you do on this day and this day.
Or the calendar, and it's not directly in the Bible, so why are we following it? And I agree, you don't have to. You're not less Christian if you don't use Advent. There's nothing biblical to that, other than it's pointing us to biblical themes. And because it's woven into our culture, I think it creates just great opportunity.
I agree.
So then when did Advent become a part of your life?
I think meeting my husband, he grew up Episcopalian, but, so that was all part of his life. Those terms were normal to him. And so talking about those and his excitement and things that he did as a kid, and then having my children and realizing, I can weave this in and kind of pull in what my husband did. And so my kids grow up with that concept of Advent and, reflecting on Christ and the story of why we celebrate Christmas beyond Santa.
Yeah, because Episcopalian is a very high church.
Yes.
And I'm just going to go ahead and guess then that what Advent looked like for you growing up and what Advent looked like for him growing up was very different. Coming together. And I think that's awesome. And I think if you are married, and especially if you're married with kids, it's a great opportunity to weave the two things that you guys have done growing up together and combine them into a unique, special tradition. This is what we do as a family. It helps create a family identity that revolves around the faith and revolves around Jesus.
Very much.
So then go ahead and talk to us about these books. I know you were excited about them.
Because I interrupted you in the middle
church.
of
That's how
an
excited
announcement at church.
She was, which is awesome. And I said, well, that's how you can get roped into a video.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know I was signing up for that when I said, excuse me.
Punishment should fit the crime.
It should. So when Glenn was a pastor for 2 years, it was another mom, a homeschool mom, that brought these books to me. And at that time, they actually weren't even being published. And so that's why it excited me, is that he wrote another one. And so there's 4 of them now. But there's a couple of them: Jotham's Journey, Bartholomew's Passage, Tabitha's Travels. And they start at the beginning of Advent, and every day's a story. So my kids would come home from school, and I'd sit them down, and I did this more than even Glenn did with them, because I'd do it right after school with them, and every day was a story. And it starts with Jotham making a mistake. He didn't obey his parents, and what happened is he got taken away from his parents, and so the whole journey of trying to get back to his parents, and where he comes across different people. He ends up in the monastery and comes across Bartholomew. He runs into Tabitha, and they go, so the next year you read it and you're like, oh, I remember that from Jotham when we read it. And it ends with all of them coming together at the star at Christmas when Christ was born, and they all come together and witness that. And so it's pretty exciting. The last reading is on Christmas Day, so rather than reading Luke, we'd finish with this, but it's the same Christmas story.
And that's really neat. You can even see here as I open it up, it's got stuff that ties into the same Advent wreath and things that we talked about in the other videos. Week 1, Saturday, let's light the first purple candle, and then it's got the story that goes with that, and it's well illustrated. If you're interested in that, you can also, I'm sure you can Google that
You
author.
can find them on Amazon, yeah.
Arnold, I'm not even going to try to say
I don't know how
that
to pronounce
last
it
name.
either.
Y-T-E-E-I-D-E.
Yeah, don't know. But I announced his book, so I've pushed him. So
Yeah, that's right. So he won't
I may
mind.
not pronounce it,
He
but
won't mind. So now you guys read the same story basically every year, right?
no, we'd read this one year, and then you read Tabitha's Travels the next year,
Oh,
and then
okay,
you'd
I see.
read Bartholomew's Passage the next year. So each year would be a different one.
It's different stories. Did you end up cycling back through the books?
Yes, we did. So after you do 3, we'd start again the next year.
How many times do you think you ended up going?
Probably 2 or 3. You know, as the kids got older, things
Obviously,
come
you
along.
adjust, right.
Yeah,
Yep.
the 9th grader looks at you like, really, seriously,
We're
we're
doing
gonna
this
do this again.
Mom said, yes, we are.
yeah, yay.
See, I think that's huge because I think one of the things that really helps with the Advent traditions is the repetition.
Mm-hmm.
We know we're going to sit down and read this story.
Yep.
We know we're going to light the candle.
And we know what it is, but it's
what
still
it is.
special.
It is special,
Yeah.
right? The repetition adds value to it. It doesn't take it away. And so there's nothing wrong with experimenting and doing something different, but I think when we find something that our family kind of gravitates
Mm-hmm.
toward, let's make this our thing. And I think that's a great thing. So would encourage you to check out those books. You can take a look at them online. They're absolutely still in print. In fact, there's an advertisement on our church devotional,
very
which
in print
is
And they're
pretty
on
cool.
Kindle, so they're easy to find.
Easy to find, easy to use, and if that works for you, or if you need to find other stories, but revolving those around those stories, I think is really huge. And then the other kind of tradition that you and I were talking about, I think
did.
they're real simple and real short, but tell us what you guys do with the wise
So
men.
I didn't grow up with the word Epiphany either.
Yeah,
I didn't
right. That's
understand what January 6th was. But after I got married, I was not allowed to take my Christmas tree down until January 6th. And there's a reason, because our wise men from our nativity were never with our nativity. And I didn't my husband's like, no, they got to start over here. Well, why? So they'd start on the other side of the house, or they'd start on the other side of the bureau, wherever it was. And they'd each day move a little bit closer to the nativity, and they would not get there until January 6th. And as the kids grew up, well, who knows where the wise men were? They'd be traveling all over the house. But it was a little fun thing that we did to remember the wise men weren't there
Right.
that when Christ was born, and that they came after that fact, So 2 years later, actually. So
adds to the truth, the biblical
Yeah.
narrative as it actually follows. The wise men are actually
Yes.
not there at birth.
Exactly.
They are coming.
that was an epiphany to me.
That is an epiphany.
It
yes.
was. So things you miss as a kid growing up in that low church.
And it is for most people. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize that we picture that all in one event because it's
We
all
do.
told around Christmas time. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a huge deal, but you want to be as into the actual biblical story as you can.
Yep.
And again, that extends the Christmas season, and that's just a very easy and fun way,
It
I
is.
think, to
And the kids
involve
get
the
into
family.
it, and it's one they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
They want to do that and talk about that and make that wise men circle the table one more
Who's gonna
time
move
or
and
whatever.
It's like Elf on the Shelf, but taken to a biblical
Exactly,
level.
which is better.
Which is better, something kind of
So.
goofy and kind of fun, and yet tells us, hey, here's what we're actually
Yep.
celebrating in a fun way.
Yeah.
And so,
And I encourage, my kids are older now, so I don't have that as much. And, when you have your kids young, to enjoy every moment and to be able to take that opportunity to instill those truths in their hearts. It's so
Absolutely.
important. So.
well, so to kind of recap then, I mean, if a few things I think we can take away is number one, there's nothing to be scared of with Advent if you're not familiar with those words and it sounds too high church for you. It's the coming of Christmas, and this is a great chance to weave that kind of into your traditions. And then number two, blend your family traditions to make something special for your unique family. And then number three, here are a couple of just kind of fun things that you can include with your children if you have them. They're just kind of fun to do, easy to do, and that can become a part of your tradition. So thanks
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching, guys.